Good morning and welcome to Farm Factor. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom. Today, Kyle Bauer and Duane Toews are at the Kansas Livestock Association's annual meeting in Wichita. First, Kyle and Randy Blach, CEO of CattleFax, take a look at previous years in the cattle industry, and then they look forward to what 2016 and 2017 might hold. Next, enjoy this week's Kansas Soybean update, and then Duane visits with John Butler, CEO of Beef Marketing Group, and Jerry Bohn, General Manager of Pratt Feeders. It's all coming up on Farm Factor. Stay with us.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. This segment is brought to you by Kansas Wheat. Learn more at rediscoverwheat.org.
Welcome to Farm Factor at the KLA annual meeting in Wichita. Today, Kyle Bauer visits first with Randy Blach about the challenges that face the livestock industry over the past few years.
Randy, you're probably as qualified as anyone in the nation to talk about the cattle market. It's been quite a roller coaster over the last year.
Oh, it's been a roller coaster over the last couple of years, Kyle. You know, you think about 2000, the transition from 2013 to 2014. We had the third biggest price increase in the history of our industry. And then from 14 to 15, we had the third biggest price decline in the history of our business. So a year ago, we recognized at this time the market was in the process of making the cycle highs. But I have to admit, I've been surprised at the rate of decline, how fast we've gone down, especially in here over the course of the last few months.
You know, it surprises me that a lot of the cycles that we saw in the past, we see a similar sort of thing this time we saw people feeding cattle to really, really heavy weights. And when I was a kid in 75, we saw the same thing.
Well, some things don't change. You know, when you go back and you look at the economics of the business, we have some rules that we follow in our office. We call them the 3 cardinal rules. If we have premium boards, we have a poor swap on feeder cattle, and we've got cattle losing money. We've had all 3 of those things in play in here over the course of the last several months. And typically when you see that, we end up with a market that you are uncurrent on the front end, too many heavyweight cattle, too many yield grade 4s and yield grade 5s, and it just seems like it takes forever to get through that front end supply. So you're spot on. This is the same thing that's happened back in the 70s, a couple of times in the 80s, the 90s, and even in the previous decades. So you get one of these every 5 or 6 years, but this one was aggravated by a number of other things. We've had a major slowdown in the U.S. export markets because of the strength in the dollar. So the slowdown in these export markets has pushed an incredible increase in the amount of tonnage back on the U.S. beef market. Let me qualify that. Not the U.S. beef market, the U.S. protein market. So we've seen pork exports are basically flat for the year. Typically, we export 25% of all of our pork production. They're flat on an 8% increase in pork production. Poultry exports are down 14%. Beef exports are down 14%. Those are numbers that we expected would be a little bit higher for the year. So those are major, major changes in what that domestic supply looks like.
Truly, though, as we look at the historicness, as we look at the price of feed grains right now and the price of beef that we're getting right now, historically, it's really not too bad a pricing.
No, it's not. It's not too bad a pricing, but it's relative when we have the highest break-evens in the history of our industry for our margin operators. So the cattle that are coming out of our feed yards, most of those cattle would have break-evens that are in the high 50s to the high 60s. Stocker operators break evens in here at 2 to 220, and we've got feeder cattle prices trading in here from 160 to 180. So, you know, you're sitting in here with the margins being really compressed in here with the first cost on these cattle.
We're visiting with Randy Blach. He's CEO of CattleFax. After this break, we'll be right back and visit more with Randy.
Folks, stay with us. Kyle will be back with more from Randy Blach after these words from our sponsors.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
Watch Ag AM in Kansas online at agaminkansas.com. Ag AM in Kansas brought to you in part by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Welcome back to Farm Factor. Let's join Kyle and Randy Blach again as they look to the future of the livestock marketplace.
Hi, this is Kyle Bauer, continuing to visit with Randy Blach. Randy is the CEO of CattleFax. Randy, in the prior segment, we talked about kind of what has happened in the year prior, the years prior, as we've come through 2015, which in the cattle market has been really tough for the feeder people, or for the people feeding cattle. What do we look at coming into this next year?
Well, I think as you step back and you look at the macro landscape, one of the big changes that we've seen over the last 18 months has been to strengthen the dollar. So the dollar has been strong. It's been strong against other currencies, so the purchasing power of other countries around the world for their ability to be able to purchase U.S. beef, pork, or poultry has been diminished. When we look at 2016, you look at interest rates increasing, you look at the slowdown in economies around the world compared to the U.S. The U.S. is still the best game in town, isn't it? So that tells you that the dollar is likely to stay firm all the way through 2016. I don't think we should expect a lot of weakness in the dollar, which would just say to you that while exports can improve, we wouldn't expect them to be outstanding. You know, we're anticipating a 4 to 5% increase in beef, pork, and poultry exports in 2016, which will be a big help. And this year was the big increase in production. So pork production was up 8% in 2015. It'll be up 1 to 2% in 2016. Poultry production was up 5% in 2015. We're anticipating it'll be up 1 to 1.5% in 2016. When we look at beef production or beef supplies were basically flat in 2015. They'll be up between 4 and 5%. So still record large total meat supplies in the U.S., but better export picture than what we've had in 2015.
Now, looking longer out there, though, we came through a time in agriculture when we were exporting 20 to 30% of almost every commodity that we had, and that was great for our pricing. But as the dollar has strengthened, and as you mentioned, the dollar will probably stay strong, can we look at probably exports not being strong for the next few years?
Well, I think when you go through the adjustment, it's not just the currency. We have to remember that those wholesale prices are changing underneath the structure of the dollar. So what I mean by that is, think about the hog market 1 year ago. The hog market a year ago was 50 to 60% higher than it is today. So if we go back to July of 2014, we were selling hogs at 120 to 130. Now they've had a 60% correction in price. A number of our poultry items are off 40 to 50% compared to their highs of 2 years ago. Beef items would have cuts that would be 30 to 35% cheaper. So even though the dollar has appreciated 15%, those wholesale values are offsetting some of that appreciation in the dollar. So we'll get some better traction in those global marketplaces. But we all have to remember one basic thing. When prices go to record high levels, why are they doing that? They're rationing a very small supply. There wasn't enough supply when we came through the perfect storm in 2014 of beef, pork, and poultry. Now we've got very adequate, abundant supplies in here when we go through the slowdown in the global markets. So that's part of the transition and that we that we go through when we actually get into these global trades.
We're visiting with Randy Blach. This is Kyle Bauer reporting. Back to you, Jamie.
Thanks, Kyle. We'll have more from the KLA meeting a little later in the show, but stay tuned for the Kansas Soybean update. That's coming up next.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and the Kansas Soybean Update.
This is the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Richard Wilkins serves as president-elect of the American Soybean Association. He is a Greenwood, Delaware soybean farmer. And Richard, the continuing efforts by ASA have been ongoing concerning the EPA's Waters of the United States rule and the hope to eliminate that rule.
We did our due diligence in looking at the initial clean water rule that was published for comments. We reviewed it. We didn't think that it was a well-written rule. We had meetings with officials at the EPA to try to explain to them what the holes were in it that we saw. We asked them to not to proceed forward, to go back to the drawing board and rewrite it and recraft it to find a more workable solution. In the Chesapeake Bay watershed where I farm at, I've been dealing with these water quality issues for over 30 years now. And, you know, what we had in place initially was a voluntary program whereby we educated growers, we encouraged growers to adopt best management practices, and the trend line was showing that our waters were improving there. But that wasn't satisfactory for the EPA administration office there. They withheld cost share funds that we were utilizing these cost share funds to help incentivize growers to be able to make changes and adopt better practices. They threatened to withhold those funds from us if we didn't change to a more mandatory approach. So they forced our hand, and we had to do that. The American Soybean Association, we met with EPA Administrator McCarthy and asked her, publish this as an interim final rule so that you can continue to get feedback, so you can continue to allow comments. We believe ultimately rests upon Congress. That's the body that originally passed the Clean Water Act in the early 1970s. It ultimately rests upon Congress to, if there needs to be changes to that original act, for them to legislate, for them to properly vet with the stakeholders what those proposed changes would be. Trying to do this by rule, we're finding that in Chesapeake Bay watershed, farmers that have been practicing good conservation methods, that have been willing to cooperate with the federal agencies, are now pulling back. They're saying, I don't want those people on my farm. And that's a shame, because all these programs that were working for us are now threatened to not exist any longer.
It is the fear of the overreach of the government. It starts there. Where does it go after that in many aspects?
Well, that's the unintended consequences of a mandatory rule. Who can argue that the carrot, the incentivizing program, always works better than beating somebody over the head with a stick?
That's Richard Wilkins, who serves as president-elect of the American Soybean Association. He's been our guest on the Kansas Soybean Update. It's brought to you by the Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Learn more at kansassoybeans.org. For Kansas Soybeans, I'm Greg Akagi.
Hope you enjoyed this week's Kansas Soybean Update. Stay tuned after the break as Duane Toews visits with John Butler and Jerry Bohn from the KLA meeting in Wichita.
Biodiesel made from sustainable resources is diversifying our fuel supply. This year, biodiesel will displace over 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. It's making our economy stronger and our communities healthier. It's working here and across America. Get biodiesel going in your community. Visit americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
This segment brought to you by Heinen Brothers Ag, farmers helping farmers by offering quality aerial and ground application. fertilizer, ag chemicals, and anhydrous ammonia. Call today to protect your crop yield.
Thanks for staying with us. Now we'll catch up with Duane as he interviews John Butler and Jerry Bohn.
Duane Toews joining you on Ag AM in Kansas while at the Kansas Livestock Association annual meeting, convention, and trade show in Wichita. A chance to catch up and talk about the beef industry long-range plan. Joining us today, John Butler, with Chief Executive Officer of the Beef Marketing Group. To my left and on my right, Jerry Bohn, General Manager of Pratt Feeders. Gentlemen, certainly we think about the beef industry and the opportunities to move this industry forward. A lot of thought and foresight that goes into that, a lot of work on behalf of each of you and others within the industry. John, can you give us a little broad background about the long-range plan and what the intent is to be?
Well, essentially, the industry asked a group of industry stakeholders, Jerry and I being two of them, to come together and design sort of a directional map, if you will, for the next 5 years. So 2016 through 2020. So we came together, I believe there were 16 of us, and we represent every segment in the beef value chain. So everything from a seed stock producer to commercial cow-calf to a feeder to packer to retailer, dairy. We had all of those segments represented, and really what we came together to do was, and what we were charged with was to understand all the trends in the industry, and try to get a really good understanding of the challenges that are out there, and then design a direction, specific strategies, if you will, to best address each of those challenges with the limited resources that we've got.
When we think about doing that, obviously it has to be something that's elastic, if you will. We have things that crop up from time to time within the industry, but making sure that we have our bench work laid before us is pretty important.
No doubt about it. And, you know, we hope that this plan, and we think that this plan going forward will give the industry a framework by which we can work toward growing beef demand. And our strategic objective here for all of this is that we will grow the wholesale beef demand index by 2% per year over the next 5 years. It's an aggressive strategy. We knew that when we put it in here, but we felt like it would give the industry hopefully an achievable goal that in the end all beef industry participants could benefit from.
John, from my perspective, it looks like we've kind of broke it out into 4 segments then. When we start to looking at the nuts and bolts of it, driving growth in beef exports, one of those.
Mm-hmm. And we did. We actually had many more, and we had to go through the exercise of sifting down to 4. But beef exports was not only one of them; it's the top one. It's the most important. All the other 3 are very important too. But the reason that driving beef exports is so critical is because of the opportunity that exists. As we look at the global community and the economics associated with that, we're seeing an Asian consumer. China and other Asian countries are getting more stable from an economic standpoint. So one of the things that they can do with that enhanced economic position is to buy better protein, and we fit right into that category.
We'll be back with more on Ag AM in Kansas from the Kansas Livestock Association Annual Convention and Trade Show in Wichita. Jamie will be sending it back to you for more from Wichita after this.
Don't go away. After the break, Duane is back with John Butler and Jerry Bohn for more from the KLA annual meeting.
I'm a patient of Kansas Regenerative Medicine in Manhattan. I had stem cell therapy in my hips and my left knee. My wife and I both are patients. We went down there the same day in November. Since then, my hips are feeling a lot better. I can work now most of the day if I want to. And before, if I worked in the morning, I was done in the afternoon, or if I worked in the afternoon, I was sure enough done for the rest of the day.
I will take action against herbicide-resistant weeds. I will know my weeds, and I will stop them before they go to seed. I will do whatever it takes to give my crops the upper hand, and I will use multiple herbicide sites of action because every action counts. I will take action. This time, for all time.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back to Farm Factor and more of Duane's report from the Kansas Livestock Association's annual meeting in Wichita.
Back with more Ag AM in Kansas from the Kansas Livestock Association annual convention and trade show in Wichita. We continue our discussion about the beef industry long-range plan. John Butler and Jerry Bohn joining us. Jerry, we think about the opportunity to promote and strengthen beef's value. That's a key point that the beef industry worked on for a long time, but continues to be of utmost importance.
Yes, it is. We need to figure out ways to position beef and to enhance its value proposition as it compares to pork and poultry. One of the challenges we face is that we believe we need to reinvent the way we merchandise beef. The beef counter and the packaging that we use has not changed much over the many years, and it looks like there's an opportunity there for us to better meet consumer demand by reinventing how we present beef. We also are going to be utilizing social media to attract more demand, particularly from our millennial customers. You know, 1/3 of the beef consumers in the U.S. today are millennials, and so we're learning how to market our product to them. And one of the goals here is to continue to work on the value proposition that beef presents to these consumers to get them to be willing to pay the price that it takes to buy more beef compared to pork and poultry.
John, one of the other pivotal points will be growing consumer trust in beef and how we grow beef and produce it here in the U.S. Maybe one of the places that we've been a little bit behind in agriculture of telling our good story.
Yeah, Duane, that's exactly right. I think that it's not that we have been delinquent. It's just that we haven't been proactive about it. And really, as we look at and we did on the committee, as we looked at consumer, what affects their buying decision, trust is certainly at the top of that list. And as you look at that further and what it takes to gain trust, really they want to know more about where their food comes from, all of their food, and we're in that category. And actually, when you think of the whole food category as a whole, beef is really a romantic kind of a story to tell. And so we've got to be more proactive. We've got to become sort of like in a fishbowl and accept that to show how we do, how we produce cattle, how we care for them, how we care for the environment, how we provide shade for them, how we, all those sorts of things to get their comfort level that, hey, there is a system behind what ends up in the meat case or on the menu that I can be confident. It's sort of like Intel Inside in your laptop computer. I can be confident that all these standards are being met and that these animals are coming from an operation that is utilizing the resources till its fullest extent.
Well, our thanks to both John Butler and Jerry Bohn for joining us here at the KLA Convention and Trade Show in Wichita, talking about the beef industry long-range plan looking ahead, the years 2016 to 2020. Jamie, we'll send it back to you for more Ag AM in Kansas.
Thanks again for joining us at the KLA annual meeting in Wichita. I'm your host, Jamie Bloom, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. See you next week on Farm Factor. We're here every Tuesday on Ag AM in Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agaminkansas.com.